Greetings to all participants of the conference. Let me present to you the work of the topic Influencing Factor Analysis of European and World Regional Economies Development Caused by War in Ukraine based on multi-criteria decision-making theory. The international team of Victoria Vysotska, Myroslava Bublyk, Yurii Matseliukh, Maryna, Shevchenko, Valentyna, Panasyuk, and Dmytro Karpan, united scientists from Ukraine and Germany, namely from Lviv Polytechnic National University and Osnabrück University. The purpose of the work is to conduct the study of the level of unfavorable factor influencing the development indicator of the economies of Europe and the world, which are caused by the war in Ukraine, as well as to determine the priority of selection to criteria for the adoption of managerial decision by the government of countries based on the theory of multi-criteria decision making. Our dataset contains the following data: refugees distribution from Ukraine after beginning of the full-scale invasion, price for food products in the world, inflation rate in Europe, change in X price in Ukraine, the euro exchange rate and its changing during a conversation for the following currency: euro to USD and euro to Japanese yen, the price of gold, the price of the hryvnia against the dollar, USA dollar change in the real gross domestic product of Ukraine and the European countries. They are presented on the slide. Analysis of statistic data on the distribution of the refugees from the Ukraine after beginning of the full-scale invasion. The histogram displays the frequency of the number of people from the simple falling into the certain interval. That is, we can see which interval the most people fall into. In case we can see that most people fall into the set interval, so it's from beginning for the full-scale invasion most often in one day for 3.1 million to 4.6 million people crossed the border. That is certainly depend between the events and mood of the population, because even if you take only the one region of Ukraine, there are fluctuation of the graph. In the look at the 6 point below to the correlation field, we can see this is month of the June. Then we can almost shelling that, and according the number of people who left, then very small. Analysis of the dynamic of the increasing decreasing in the price of food products in the world. Ukraine ranked first in the export of the sunflower oil abroad and is one of the key exporter of wheat and grain crops in general. This graph illustrates the correspondence between the wheat price jump and similar changes in inflation rate about the world. Figure demonstrates the year 2008, this is namely American crisis, and so it can be conflicted, that is, relation between the inflation rate and the cost of certain type of products that is produced for export. This support our thesis that the restriction of wheat available to purchase could indeed have caused the crisis in Europe. So this wheat and gold have different distribution of area concerning times. They will not have relation. Strange linears of the graph below. The results of the cluster analysis are shown in these figures on the slide by cluster dendrograms. The interpretation of these results cluster analysis follow. We obtained deviation of the type of products, the world economy coding of the average value. Conclusion: the most expensive product is nickel, the cheap product is wheat, the price of sugar, petrol, gas, and cotton is at the same level. The analysis of changes is the currency conversion euro to USD or euro to Japanese yen. The data set is about European currency include changes into the euro currency, namely the conversion of currencies euro to USD and euro to Japanese yen. The graph shows the dynamic of the rise of also the euro against the USA dollar over the certain period. The graph also shows the dynamic of growth or decline the euro against the Japanese yen over the certain period named over the last year. Comparing the constructed graphs of the cumulate base of data from the histogram, the cumulate base for the integrate indicator, you can see that they are quite similar. The difference between these two cumulates is to cumulate construct according to the histogram data has k approximation node and is broken curve. We can conclude that the result of hierarchy cluster analysis is constructed by a dendrogram and term despite the proximity of individual points, the clusters, and for each other graphically represents the sequence of merging graphs. In other words, with the help to dendrogram, you can depict a nested group of the object and change it at different level of the hierarchy. So, with the help of the cluster node, we were able to reduce the dimension of the data by grouping similar group into the cluster using the nearest neighborhood strategy. Also, as a result of constructed dendrogram, we are able to reveal the hierarchy structure to input the data, and with the received data in more visual structure formed graphically and objects most distant from each other, so the closer to each other. Conclusion. So, at the end, we examine the level of unfavorable factor influencing the indicator of the development of the economies in Europe and world which are caused by the war in Ukraine. Taking into account the consequence of the war in Ukraine, we consider from the various points of view economic, social, political, environmental, etc. The catastrophic consequence of the war in Ukraine negatively affected the continuing effect development of European countries. We found that the rate of economic growth is rapidly decreased, especially in Eastern European countries.